Yeah.
Welcome to episode 10. We reached a milestone.
10.
We're going to go celebrate at milestones. Yeah, number 10. I can't believe we're still going. And this time we got a special surprise. We have a guest today. We actually interview somebody. We're starting a new thing where we interview people.
The king of moccasin gaze, Zoon.
Yeah, Zoon.
Daniel Monkman.
He had a great year. Look forward to that coming up later.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about LL Cool J before we came on here, and he's like one of the OG rappers who doesn't get mentioned a lot. But he's up there on all the old school rappers, like the old guys now. He's on their list as like top 5. So
yeah, man. What show is he on? Is he NCIS or CSI? He's on CSI.
I don't know.
He's almost known more as an actor nowadays.
Yeah. He had a TV show in the 90s where he like wore his pant leg up to his knee. Remember that? He was like trying to start a new style. No, one pant leg up to his knee and the other one was down.
Cisco had that too, didn't he?
It was a thing, man. People were trying to do it. Dude. Yeah. Yo, Thong Song, dude. That's a classic.
Thong Song is a classic. When he's just air running. He's just air running over fucking booties.
I think it's Vice or someone just did a deep dive on that, like the story of the Thong Song. They've done that a couple times with some other shit, like Blue by Eiffel 65. But like when they talk about that, and I guess Jet Li was killing it in America at that time.
Romeo Must Die.
Yeah, and he was doing all that kind of stuff. So Cisco in the thing is just like, yeah, I saw that and I want to do that in my video. I don't even care what it was about. Like I just wanted to have that part in my video.
What a beautiful intersection of culture.
Yeah, and showing appreciation to a 90s staple, even for high school kids. Fucking thongs, dude. Thongs were huge, you know?
Hell yeah, dude. That nice V shape, up your wedgie style.
Exactly. The real tragedy is that it never caught on with men. That's what I'm saying,
I think so. Why not? Why not just instead of boxers, instead of wearing your pants down, can't you just rip up some thongs?
Yeah, dude. If you're playing football with the boys, you're leaning over to hike the ball. We see a little bit of your thong come up. That's just fashion, And
it just means you're ready to go. That's all business, man. You're sleek. You're streamlined.
You're aerodynamic. Yeah, nothing's holding you back.
Yeah, you're minimizing your sweat output.
Did you ever rock a banana hammock ever?
Yeah, man. Okay, I got a banana. Well, it wasn't a full-on banana hammock, but I would. I definitely would.
That's like a Speedo type of thing for those that don't know.
But just for your package, it's a thong Speedo. It's like between a thong and a Speedo. I actually have one. I have a lacy one. I do. I have one banana hammock, and it's for like kinky occasions.
Oh,
for freaky times.
Ayo.
And it's
Does it have a zipper in the front?
No, it's just like a little lacy. It's a little lacy sack.
Yep.
And then like a thong.
Dude, I mean, you want to suntan and get the full body. I think that's just legitimate. Like you're not even making a statement. It's more personal. You're like, I just want the whole body tan.
Oh, thank you. It's not little.
Is Tina off camera telling you not to talk about the?
No, I talked about my little banana hammock, and she was like, "It's not little." It's like, thank you, thanks for the gas up.
Hey, there you go.
So I was just gonna say like that. I wore that to a fetish party or like a kink event I went to, and it was like that was my steez was just like, look at my fucking dick. Like that was my criteria.
With your balls like hanging out the sides, like just drooping up?
No, it actually packaged it quite nice, but yeah, like that was my thing, was just showing off my gift, I guess.
I'm just thinking like after Zoon hears this whole episode, he's gonna be like, I'm on this show.
Yeah, he's gonna call his publicist. He's gonna cancel. Just send the lawyers.
Yeah, get this taken off.
Yeah. No, that's funny, man. The old banana hammock. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
talk about old school rap. Rip to Shock G.
Oh,
Digital Underground. Humpty, the Humpty Dance.
Too many rappers are dying, man. Too many rappers are dying.
Did you know what? I just saw that he died. I didn't bother seeing what it was.
I didn't see what it was either.
Could be cancer.
Exactly.
No, well, it's not gonna. At least he's not getting shot like that. What I mean? At least he lived. But it'd be weird if Shock G. That's the thing. Like, Shock G's not the kind of rapper where you'd be like, what? He was the good part of Tupac. Like the whole it was like. Suge Knight was on one end, and I think like Digital Underground and Shock G were on like the other end for Tupac, which were like the positive party guy. People who don't know who Shock G is, he's Humpty from the Humpty Dance. See, this is old. We're fucking washed as shit. This is
I know, but this is a classic too. This is timeless music. Like
it is,
a
man.
person now could go back and listen to that and be down.
Yeah, the Humpty Dance, hell yeah, man. You once got busy in a Burger King bathroom.
Oh damn! Yeah,
right.
I guess that's when he says it. Yeah. And he also was a person who had like Tupac as one of his dancers on stage. And he kind of like mentored him up a little bit. So.
Yes, that's almost what he's most famous for. Is Digital Humpty Dance and then mentoring Tupac. And he's on my favorite Tupac song, "I Get Around."
Oh,
Shock G's on that one.
He's on a
He's a whole rap.
Damn,
dude.
cool.
I get around, bro.
Yeah. It's just sad to see.
Tupac.
I mean, he was like an older guy, but these people, even DMX was 50. They're not like ancient. So it's like, it's just sad to see these guys go. And these are like people who are connected to the beginning of hip hop.
Paul McCartney's still around.
Yeah, exactly.
And these guys are still fucking
crime, dude. I know, man. And like,
kill Paul McCartney.
That's right. You hear that, shooters? Get out there. But I feel like hip hop's not that old, and these people are connected to the birth a little bit, and it's just sad seeing them go without their stories told. And I feel like that's something, almost as a hip hop head myself, it's like I really hope people start interviewing these older guys like Big Daddy Kane and LL Cool J about the times that they came up in, because that shit's super important, just to have like the oral history, you know what I mean, of this genre.
Dude, it's wild, man. Like, you see guys that are still alive, and like, you know, like the kind of elders, like Snoop, I think is the biggest one, because I mean, he's also like one of the most just popular rappers of all fucking time. But like, people are like, oh, it's Snoop, and he's like funny, he's like hizzle drizzle, but it's like, dude, Snoop Dogg. There was a time when I was a kid where like Snoop Dogg was like terrifying. Like, you were like, oh man, like that's dangerous music. Yeah, like even
crazy. People like Melly Mel are still alive. Grandmaster Melly Mel, like,
dude.
He's on Cameo.
Old
actually,
school.
do you know what Cameo is?
No.
Cameo is like an app or a service that basically like celebrities sign on to, and then you could request personal messages from them for a fee.
Oh, it's awesome.
It is awesome. So like Norm Macdonald's on there, fucking Grandmaster Melly Mel's on there, and one time I wrote a rap, like a joke rap, for my girlfriend that referenced Melly Mel, and then she bought a cameo of Melly Mel wishing me happy birthday.
That's fucking love.
Shout out. That's love. That's love.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know who Melly Mel is, he's the guy on that Grandmaster Flash song, The Jungle. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes you wonder how I keep from going under. Yeah, message.
Yeah, like old school.
Just Jack, just a big old guy, just fucking yoked, like fucking.
That guy should
Mr.
tell
T.
stories. We need to hear his stories, because like,
dude,
he was there. You know,
all that stuff, man. I love hearing about that. I think that's important.
Yeah, like Questlove has a podcast. I've shouted this out before, but he interviews OG like rap people. Like MC Search is a recent one I listened to.
Oh, nice.
It's like a 3-hour one, but he's always telling these crazy stories about going to clubs in like the late to mid 80s. And like, you know, like he tells a classic story where it's like, who was it? KRS-One was rapping on stage and Melly Mel was in the back heckling him. You know, and like shit like that. And it's like, that's the stuff you never hear. And it's like, that's real life, you know, like this, all that stuff that happens behind the scenes leads up to what we know on the mainstream, the face.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like,
dude, I was listening to the fucking Joe Rogan podcast because Ice-T was on. He was interviewing Ice-T.
It's good to tune into him when you like the guest.
Or was it even I think it was a Joe Rogan, but like but Ice-T was talking about, because he was like one of the original gangster rappers from LA. Like nobody was even rapping in LA, and Ice-T was like, I'm rapping and I'm also a Crip. I'm gonna rap about being a Crip. This is what I know.
Like you're saying about Snoop Dogg, he was like even more crazy than that. Like crazy. He was considered a violent thug or something, you know.
But he was having a story about him going to New York, and like New York guys weren't really into gangbanging, but they were still like tough guys, and he couldn't wear like his chains, they
snatched it.
People would just rob him. Like people would rob other people in clubs, so he had to like show up and just was like always looking around and like literally had to like. And we're talking about a guy who's like, I'm a Crip, and he's like,
exactly.
He goes to the fucking somewhere in like Harlem in the 80s, and he's just like, tuck the chain in. Like
on Questlove's podcast, there's a running gag where they like interview all these old school people like Q-Tip, MC Search, Dante Ross, all these people, and they always have stories about this one club called the Latin Quarter, and that's like a story on every single person's story. They mention someone getting their chain snatched. Like it's like, dude,
chain snatching is hilarious.
Yeah, it's just real, man.
It happens. It happens. I mean, it still happens. There's guys that fucking, and now with social media, some dude will rob a guy, and then brag about it and be like, I got your chain, and it's like, that's so fucked.
It's
like
pretty
this is
whack.
Fucking insane. Like,
yeah, I'd say check out, if you're a hip hop head and like the history, you're a bit of a nerd, I would check out the Questlove podcast. Yeah, there's like some deep nugs on there.
Some deep schnugs.
Schnuggies.
Some deep schnugs, man. Does talk about hip hop. Well, it's not really hip hop. I've been listening to Bad Bunny. But he's kind of like that hip hop reggaeton fusion.
Yeah,
but
I like his success. That video you sent me, it's like him basically laughing at all his haters. It's like,
well, and that he loves wrestling. Like he was in WrestleMania. this year.
Really?
And like legitimately wrestling. Like he's obsessed with wrestling.
That's awesome.
And WWE, and like he was actually in WrestleMania, and you're like, is that Bad Bunny? There's like a little Puerto Rican guy and like well dressed, like
did he
jumping off
as well, or just straight wrestle? That's it.
I think he just straight wrestled.
That's awesome.
But I said Chris the Booker T song, so I was like, man, this is hilarious because like I love Booker T, and Bad Bunny's cool.
You know what's funny? Okay, so I don't watch wrestling, so I just did not get that reference. Was that actually Booker T in the video?
That's Booker T, dude. That's straight up Booker T.
Okay,
from Harlem Heat. Fucking dude. Yeah.
See, that I had no context for that, so I was just like, oh, this is kind of a cool video, but it's just a guy standing in a room. What's the big
and he's
deal?
getting paid, man. Fuck yeah. Like fuck yeah, Booker T for like getting that bank, because it's like I looked at it was like 120 million fucking views. I was like, god damn.
Yeah.
And that's a small, that's not even like a like there's like Bad Bunny is in like the billion views with like Drake and shit. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, exactly.
He's up there.
Yeah, shout out Bad Bunny. Check him.
Shout out, yeah. Reggaeton, man, and reggaeton's fucking dope.
I feel like reggaeton's the sound of the world.
Dude, I was in you go to Europe. When I was in Europe, it's all reggaeton.
Yeah, like being North American, you think it would be rap or pop or something, but it's like even reggaeton worldly, this year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It applies, man. There's something about that rhythm that is universal. Like other culture, like you know what I mean? Like it's adaptable. Like you can take that reggaeton rhythm and then you can be in Romania. You know what I mean? Or like Spain or North Africa. And like
it's kind of got like different rhythms you could dance to. If you want just the straight four on the floor, it has like doom, 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 doom. And then it has like the other kind of like rhythm. You can basically do anything. Yeah, exactly. You can do your pogo up and down dance, or you can move your ass a little bit. Like
you got to shake your dick around, bro. Or you're
in the banana hammock. I get
your
it.
Banana hammock. You got it, man. How can you not? Yeah, when reggaeton comes on, how can you not move your balls up and down like a pendulum? Impossible. It's impossible not to.
It's impossible to take your eyes off that too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, only that's our next music video is just banana hammocks.
Like hypnotizing people,
Yeah, it feels good, man. Not wearing a lot of. I'm not a boxer guy. Straight up, I'm a maybe boxer brief at most.
I've slowly weaned back to just the briefs.
Yeah,
I was like a boxer guy, but then it looks like too baggy and shit. It's like I could just wear these outside by themselves. They're almost like shorts.
It's hard wearing nice pants with boxers, man.
Yeah, and then I moved to boxer briefs to switch it up, and that was okay for a while. But then I just went straight briefs, and I'm loving that, man. Yeah,
straight briefs. I'm a brief, maybe a couple boxer briefs thrown in, but
yeah. Keep it snug, keep it tight.
You don't want to raw dog it too. You don't want to go fucking commando.
Too much potential for violence to the nether regions,
Yeah, too much. I don't know, man.
Down there. You got chafing jeans.
Just ass juice and denim is not a good combination.
It's true.
You know what's crazy, man, is that like escaping the grid is such a privilege. That's what I always don't understand. You know what I mean?
Like a tiny home or something?
Yeah, or like when people are like, I'm gonna get a boat and go off into the wild. It's like those are always people whose parents are fucking like dentists.
Yo, like Into the Wild. Remember that stupid
ass
book?
Dude, fuck that guy, man. I always shit on that guy, dude. Anytime it's like the Beatles. Anytime somebody brings that guy up, I'm like, that guy's a fucking chump.
Dude, people
an idiot.
Exactly, he's a dum-dum. And like, dude, I feel like people bring him up like he really understood something that we all didn't. It's like, no, he was just a dumb guy, rich kid.
He's an idiot, man. He went into one of the harshest places you can and died because he didn't know he didn't know how to live there.
At least spend a year or two figuring out how to live there and then go do it. Don't just like willy-nilly go do
it. Bro, for people who've grown up, whose grandparents and parents like lived in the Yukon right near Alaska and like grew up in like the fucking like northern area, it's like they did that. My fucking 5 foot tall fucking grandma did that and was like shooting moose off fucking canoes. Like, what's your fucking excuse? You're just a soft fucking, you're a soft piece of shit. Yeah, man. You have no right. It's a harsh, it's beautiful. It's mystic. It's rugged, but it does not give a shit. It's not here for your fucking self-discovery voyage.
Yeah. It's not going to hold your
hand. It'll kill you.
It'll
kill you, man. Yeah. Nature will kill you. It doesn't care about you, especially up in northern climates or like remote areas like where you actually have to survive.
Yeah,
you can't
it's not some whimsical like camping trip you're on, you're out there alone with poisonous plants and stuff. Dude. And vicious not vicious, but like animals that will kill you.
Anytime you hear, and like this is gonna sound really harsh, but anytime you hear somebody from like North America and they go to India or Central and South America and some shit pops off, you're like, well, what did you expect, man? That's not your house, your suburbs, your parents, like, or they like, or people like, I climbed Mount Everest and died. You're like, yep, you did. You climbed the mountain.
That was the chance you took.
And you fucking died. You sailed around the world and you fucking got killed by pirates. That's just how the cookie crumbles, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, fuck into the wild.
Do you think other like cultures, like say India, for instance, like a person from there is like, I'm going to go discover my spirituality in North America? You know what I mean? Like, because like,
they're going to convert to Christianity. They're going to convert to Catholicism and fucking.
It's mostly like people going there being like, I want to know what it's like to be alive.
It's the god of money
or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or the god, or make money. It's a different incentive, right?
Yeah, it's like
But man, that's shit. Yeah, like white people going to India,
like Darjeeling Limited vibes, you know? Like,
yeah, like us just treating other places like it's just a playground.
It's gonna be like give you answers or something, you know?
Like, for every person, every guru or spiritual advisor in India or the Himalayas that totally makes money from ripping off fucking Westerners, like, yeah, thumbs up. Good for you guys. Shout out.
Yeah. They got the pockets. They want the pockets drained. It might as well be you getting the money.
Yeah. It's like when people go to fucking South America or like, you know, Central America, like for like peyote and like drug taking, you know, to be spiritual.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, like you kind of want those people. You're like, you know what? Yeah, make money off these guys, but also like it's such a ignorant thing to do, you know, in a lot of ways. Like it's like these people are only here just to help my own journey of getting high. And
that's exactly it. It's still selfish, even though they're trying to discover how to be selfless. But it's like all selfish. Yeah.
There was that guy who from the island who was actually killed somewhere in South America because he went and did like ayahuasca and was like, he sought out this woman who was a straight up like wise woman, or like who was like a teacher of like a priestess, and he sought her out, and then he had like a mental breakdown and ended up actually killing her. Like, this is a true story. Recently, yeah, like something happened, and then the village just they straight up just like drug him out and killed him. And it was a big thing. And it's just like, man, like this is not like the whole new age hippie stuff, like drugs and spirituality and religion and transcendence. It could be beneficial, but like there's always a good and a bad, man. Like you can't open these doors and be prepared for the intensity that comes out of it. You know what I mean? Like it's such a,
you don't know what will come out of the human psyche. Like each person is a complex person with like stuff that's bottled up and stuff that's on the surface, and these kind of drug trips release it all basically and open the whole channel. So it's like, you don't know what'll come out of that. Yeah.
Like I'm a firm believer in like, if spiritualism is, there's dark and light, you know, it's power. You can't, it's such an ignorant, like individualist liberal way of thinking of being, you just cherry pick the good parts of a religion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of a practice. And then, you know, you pick the good parts of Hinduism and you don't take the bad parts of Buddhism, you know what I mean? You just pick what you like. And then you're like, this is me. Like,
that's funny. You're describing me actually. Like I don't subscribe to anything very specific, but I do like reading about things, and then
of course,
I'll take some stuff in and be like, oh, I agree with that. But
yes,
like Buddhism is a prime example because I got really into that when I was in like out of high school. Not like really into it, but I was like reading about it. But I'm like, I know that I'm never gonna stop eating meat, and I'm not gonna stop smoking weed, and I'm not gonna stop drinking. And these are all parts of it to a certain extent for the strict people, you know. But other ideas I like about it, you know.
Yeah, but you're not coming off as like a spiritually awoken, powerful person.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I always kind of am a little bit wary about those kind of people. You know what I mean? Like when you meet, especially you meet a lot of them on the island, but people who are like supposedly like awoken and spiritual, and you're just like, you're trying too hard, man. Just
it's crazy how quickly those people have merged with QAnon and like conspiracy theory, because it's the same mindset.
Yeah,
they cherry pick and they're like, I'm better than you. I'm awoke. You guys are ignorant.
Yeah,
you know, like they're given the truth serum.
You know what? It was like, it gives me vibes like, oh, you got maybe a lot of like deep problems you haven't figured out. Like that's how it feels to me for some reason. Like it's like they're focused so hard on it that it's like maybe that's a good thing. You know what? Shout out to them. Do that work.
Shout out to finding yourself in a unethical way.
Yeah, exactly.
The Hundy Thou Podcast supports that.
As long as it helps you, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, man. That's crazy, man. And I think people are finding all that stuff out now. I mean, we're always looking for something that's not reality. You know, we're not the physical world. So like the spiritual world is so much more attractive, especially fucking right now for people, man.
Yeah, I think it's kind of important. Like I'm not like a super religious person or a spiritual person, but like I think it's important to be able to connect to that part of you a little bit. You know what I mean? Because like if you just live too much in in our society's reality, if that makes sense, then you're just seeing kind of like one picture when there's like, I don't know how to describe this, but it's like there's a feeling sometimes, and then there's just like intellectual processing. Do you know what I'm saying? And like this is why I'm like going to the woods all the time and standing by rivers, because sometimes I'll just stand there and I'll feel very relaxed, and a feeling swells over me that I can't quite describe, but it's like peace, I guess. That's
hell
pretty
yeah,
much
dude.
it.
I went to the sauna yesterday, and like sitting in a fucking steam bath and like closing your eyes and just breathing is like,
yeah,
not thinking about shit is very important.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. And it's like those, like being open and accepting like the energy. This is sounding some like spiritual ass bullshit, but like is important. I don't think enough people do it, because like now we got phones and all this media, and I find myself sometimes like that. Like I'll be watching a TV
Tinder,
show and like on the phone on the side.
Yeah.
And it's like your soul is like dead or being overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. You need to find a balance.
Balance, bro.
Yeah.
Balance. Well, shit, dude. We got we got a good one coming up. We got a number 10. We got our first interview.
Yeah,
really good.
Of balance. I mean, we're balancing hearing our two idiot opinions with another person. So hey,
exactly.
Good for us.
Yeah, man. Daniel Monkman, aka Zoon, crushing it.
He had a great year, and I'm glad that he was able to join us.
Bleached Waves, his album Bleached Waves. Grab it on Apple Music, preferably. It's on all their streaming platforms as well, but support the homie on Apple if you can. If not, it's on Spotify. It's shoegaze, very, very powerful. It's called, he deems it moccasin gaze. So if you're a fan of feeling feelings and going through almost like a sonic ceremony, I check it out, man. It's unlike any other shoegaze. It's really actually quite emotional and cathartic. Listen to it. So, and I'm not a fan of shoegaze at all. Like I don't want to see a bunch of boring white kids fucking strum a guitar overdriven. You know what I mean? And just listen to this, I was like, oh shit, okay.
But all his other influences, he mixes into it and it makes it a little more unique than the other stuff we've seen.
He's Zoon's a real dude, man. You guys will hear this in the interview. He's a real dude. He's been through shit. He has shit to say, and he has art. Like you hear that in his art.
Yeah, big up to anyone who's trying to do art and succeeding.
Yes.
On whatever level that is to you.
That being said, motherfuckers, share our shit. Tell your friends.
Please. I guess we have to start getting into our funny little promo stuff ourselves, because it helps us a lot if you share it and we get outside of our own friend group. That would
share
be
it on
nice.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Like we love you guys, but we need some other people.
And just play it, man. Open this shit up and just play it. Just play it on Spotify or on Apple Music. Just stream our shit.
Yeah. Just get some bots. Get like 5 computers together and just start streaming it. Rack those streams up. Treat it like a blockchain, like we're mining Bitcoin. Just like
exactly.
Just keep those things going over like a repeat.
Exactly. So should we get into it, my man?
Yeah. All right. Here's the interview. Peace out.
Episode 10. Fuck y'all.
Our guest today is a musician and filmmaker, jokingly describing his music as moccasin gaze, a playful jab at the music genre shoegaze, his most obvious influence. He's been featured on the CBC, Fader, Exclaim, and numerous other music blogs. His critically acclaimed debut album, Bleached Waves, was #1 for 7 consecutive weeks on the Earshot National Top 50 charts, almost breaking the record, and now sits at #4 in the top 200 of 2020, nestled between Wolf Parade and Caribou. So as a relative newcomer, how does it feel to be charting up there with those Canadian indie legends?
It honestly feels a bit strange. It did at first because I put this record out not expecting really anything. I was just like, it was literally like, I went through treatment centers and they were like, oh yeah, when you get out, part of your aftercare program is to kind of write about your experience from your when you were young, and where you think the trauma started and kind of where you are at now. And putting out that record, I knew that it was like a safe time to to put out like a record and identify myself as indigenous, because like back in 2007 I just avoided all that kind of stuff. So for it to kind of be embraced, it was a shock, but I knew that what I was bringing to the table, like the OG shoegaze sound, was definitely different than all the kind of shoegaze people who are putting out records, and plus with the indigenous fusion of it, I knew that it was something new. So I was surprised, but also at the same time I was like, I knew that if it didn't get in charts, it would still be like acclaimed in some way.
Yeah, it's kind of its own thing. I've never heard anything like it either. Yeah, the mix of influences.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a good album, man. I like it's what I got out of it was a lot of introspection, kind of like that. Like that's the sound of remembrance, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it always seemed like every track was essentially like something had happened, and then it's like you're taking it in after the fact. You know?
That was exactly it. And a lot of it is just kind of memory collages, you know, just like experiences. I grew up in a place called Selkirk, Manitoba, and it was like a little shit town. And just outside of it was like a huge prison, and outside of that place was Winnipeg. And in the 90s and into like leading up to like the 2000s, something happened where they were like releasing like a bunch of inmates from there, and a lot of them instead of going to Winnipeg and falling into the same traps, they chose to come to Selkirk to kind of like, I don't know, start up like new gangs or stuff like that. So, so in my early life, it was like a lot of, you know, like hanging out with like gang members and stuff. And it was like really, it's a different than the crew that I hang out with now. Like, you know, I go on tour with like 4 other white boys who are like really scrawny and like, you know, they don't know anything about like, you know, breaking into a car or something. And
you're like, let me show you. And they,
shit. Exactly. But that's like the kind of energy that I put into the record itself. You know, it was like, I come from, you know, I don't really know anything about shoegaze music. I listened to My Bloody Valentine because it was just something that that was just like transformative. Whenever I listened to it, I was like, oh, this is actually something different. But I mostly like listening to like a big influence of mine is like Tupac, and and that's just like stuff that I grew up on. And so when I was making this record, that's the stuff that I would listen to. And you know, some people find that hard to believe, but like I got asked to make like an Apple Music playlist for shoegaze music, and I told my manager, I was like, I don't even know anything about shoegaze music. Honestly, I was like, I wrote them. I was like, I'll try my best, but I don't know that
like
well.
Just your album.
On the playlist. You're like, I got It's like the Zoon album. Too Short, E40.
But awesome. But that was like my hometown, so it was really hard to navigate, because I thought I was gonna become I thought I was gonna get into like making rap music. You know, that was like my idea. The people around me were,
Is that still on the table? Because like some of your songs have beats, man.
Oh yeah, for sure, exactly.
Drums, so it's like you could easily just produce or remix a rapper. You know, like.
I know. I've been thinking about it. I actually have like a bunch of projects on the go right now. Like even people who I haven't talked to yet. I have little folders where it says like Sebi, like, and then question mark, like maybe produce, and then I have like a bunch of beats inside there that I've been just kind of messing around with.
Are these artists who are already out, like doing stuff?
Yeah.
You want to shout anyone out particularly, or no?
Shit, no, not yet.
Not
yet.
yet.
Okay, it's all good.
It's a totally cool story about Selkirk, man. That's a unique fucking upbringing, and like that intersection of like life and society. Like, what would you say? What were you exposed to growing up? Do you know what I mean, like sonically? Like, what were the sounds? You know, what were these guys listening to? What were people listening to? What was your friends, your family listening to? You know what I mean? Like,
When I first got into like, everybody around me listened to like. Tupac and DMX, and those were kind of like the staples of just like, I just remember listening to Dear Mama by Tupac.
Oh, so good.
And it was like the first time that I listened to something that was like praising like our single parent moms, and I was like, I grew up in that environment where it's like my mom sacrificed everything, even had to give up one of my younger brother to adoption and I just reconnected with him now, and so like it's like when I heard something like that, I listened to all these kind of like stuff on the radio, nothing really talked about that kind of stuff, but then to hear like someone like Tupac, this kind of like masculine dude, like being vulnerable, talking about his mom, something about that resonated with me. I was like, oh, that's like some true stuff. And then going on YouTube and like looking up like interviews with him and him talking about being like a real model to the younger folk and stuff like that. Something like that always stuck with me throughout my years. But when I was younger, my mom started to realize that I was coming home drunk and like stoned, and there was like a lot of my friends like started like getting into gangs and like getting sent off to the remand center. And so my mom took me out of the school, and she's like, okay, we bought our first house. We're going to move to the country. And so we moved out, and I ended up having to go to this really like hick school called Happy Thought. And I didn't realize how fucked up the name was until I was a little bit older, but it was legit called like Happy Thought. But it was like, I was getting in fights like all the time.
That's some 1984 shit. You know what
I mean? I know, exactly. Happy Thought. Like, what the fuck? And but I met this kid who had this huge devil's lock, and he was into Misfits, and I was just like, who the fuck is this weirdo? Yeah. And I started skateboarding with him, and he showed me like power chords on a guitar, and then from there on, I just got introduced to like rock music and punk music, and that's kind of like this identity that I took over, and then I floated everywhere. I kind of went to all these different other kinds of schools. I went to First Nation school that called Sergeant Tommy Prince on my reservation because I kept getting in fights, and my mom was like, you got to go live with your dad. He'll teach you, that whole thing, he'll teach you how to be a man and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I went to this school, and because I'm like mixed race, they called me like white boy there and shit like that. Just because I knew math and stuff, they were like making fun of me and shit, and it was like so twisted. Yeah. But I learned a lot there too, and then going back into finally in high school, like the way that my Selkirk works is that like all the surrounding schools and the once they get to the high school, they all put them in the same school.
Yeah.
So I went there, and that's where I started like experimenting with like LSD and really just like opening my mind up to like more music, and then I discovered Brian Wilson, and that's when I got like really involved into production. And I think I put out my first record in like 2007, and then put it up on MySpace, and I was like super young, but I ended up getting signed to this label called Woven Records. And
it was just you were already good to start with.
yeah, like, and my 10-year anniversary for that album's coming out in a few weeks. It's getting put on Bleached Waves as like an extended thing.
Nice.
And but I remember at that time it was like just MySpace and LimeWire. I don't know if you remember. You probably remember LimeWire.
Oh yeah,
hell yeah. The virus.
My mom was
old millennials. Shout out to the old millennials.
Yeah.
You want a virus with a like Tupac Dear Mama?
Yeah.
Like as a title, go for it.
Yeah. Or like those like Nirvana songs that were really sung by like what was that one band called again?
Puddle of Mud.
Yeah, or something like that. It would say like Nirvana song, but it's
not knowing like that, kind of like that, almost like that age of piracy when you're downloading shit illegally and you're like, this could be an episode of The Sopranos, or this could be, like whatever.
Yeah.
That's almost, you kind of, it was exciting, not knowing, breaking the law.
Yeah, definitely, and like making MP3 CDs, like there's a whole generation that doesn't know that kind of stuff, and that's how I grew up.
Yeah, so you're doing all that, and you put that record out?
Yeah, before that, my mom thought I was talking to like a couple pedophiles online, and she's like, "You can't meet up with these guys." And I was like, "No, Mom, these guys want to listen to my music, man. They want to see me."
They're on a record label, I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where that started. And then I signed with them, and I put that first EP out, and I did like really well in at least in Manitoba. Later in life, I realized that there was other radio stations trying to find out who I was. But I put that one out, but shortly after, my friend Barrett passed away from a drug overdose, and all my friends were moving to Winnipeg. Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, come on, Dan, you got to move with us. Like this is like Seattle, man, and like Selkirk's like Aberdeen. Like you got to make the move." And so I made the move, and I started to like work on like they call it like your debut album, like your full length.
Mm-hmm.
And things just like, you know, I was like using a lot of like cocaine and just drinking and just trying to like cope with like losing a friend and like kind of like understanding like death is like this next stage in life, but sometimes it, you know, comes a little too soon. And like I was like struggling real hard with that concept, and it was like freaking the shit out of me.
Well, how old are you at that point?
I think I was about like 20, 21, 22 maybe.
Yeah, that's super young. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I finished the album. It wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be, and the record label ended up going belly up. It took me like 3 years to finish the record. It was like a long process, and you can find it online. It's still there, but it's so I put it out, but I realized that I needed to go to like rehab. Like I needed to like clean up my act, or else I was gonna die. Because there's a couple close calls. So I went. I was supposed to go to Red Lake in Ontario for a treatment center, but I ended up like taking off, and I went back to Manitoba to visit my dad and to kind of like rehash some things. And I found out that he got some money from being in residential schools.
Okay.
And I told him I was like, my mom's trying to make me go to rehab. I don't want to go. And he was like, no, Daniel, like I believe in you. He's like, you just need to get like a vehicle and you need to like just get away from this place. And he's like, do you want to go to BC or something? And I was like, yeah, that could be cool to go to BC. So from that time, from like 2012, I didn't play music. I just brought myself like a little acoustic guitar, and I kind of put music as a side. You know, it wasn't like the thing that defined me really at that point in my life. I was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna focus on like trying to heal myself and get in touch with my indigenous side, and just really focus on that. And maybe later in life I'd get back to music. And so from 2012 up until just like a year and a half ago, I was on that journey and just kind of like going through the motion, like trying to find out who I was really.
You were in Vancouver like for most of the time?
I was in Vancouver, and then I went to treatment center there called Together We Can. Okay. And then after that I moved to Victoria, and I lived in Victoria for a while. And I was, you know, just kind of writing lyrics and just like jotting down what I was going to do once I was able to do music. But at the same time, I was still trying to like maintain my sobriety, because I was like, you know, I was in a pretty rough place still.
So and after, oh no, sorry, continue.
No, you can ask.
I was just going to ask, like, because I kind of had a question about music as medicine. So where does your music play into your healing, or does it at all?
It definitely, it's part of my healing now. Yeah. But I think that's why I just like kept my acoustic guitar, because there's, you know, like when you sing songs and stuff, it like, I forget what it is, but it actually like unlocks something in your brain, and it releases like some kind of chemical that kind of like makes you feel like uplifted. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that was like a little, kind of like something that could keep me, like, give me a few like, I don't know how you would say it, like a
natural high.
Yeah, kind of like a natural high, like
when you jam, you get that. When you're jamming and everyone locks in, it's a weird feeling that you can't really explain, and it feels really good.
Or you're playing a live show and like the monitors are right, you know, and like the crowd is into it, and you feel it, that reciprocation of energy, that transference. It's just like, fuck, man, that's hard to beat. Like,
exactly. So that's why I kept the acoustic guitar, because I could get in touch with it. But live performance, I kept that at a far, because I couldn't go to bars. Yeah. And but so the music in a way did keep me live. You know, I kept writing down exactly what I was gonna do once I got in the studio. You know, like what I wanted to call the songs and stuff like that. So it was all I was just like imagining it all, but it was like enough of like a kind of a carrot in front of me to keep me going forward. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like back and forth all the time, trying to find the right support groups. And, you know, I was in a lot of like men's groups where we would just sit around like all these kind of like bro guys like crying and stuff. It was like really cool. And, but then, like fast forward, I moved to Hamilton, Ontario. And, wow. Because I showed my friend like some demos. I was like, oh yeah, I got these demos, man. Like I want people to sing my songs. And he's like, dude, don't get people to sing your songs. Come move to Ontario. We'll help you record your album, and we'll put it out. And he went belly up too. Like he didn't. I don't think he believed in the songs. Yeah. But so then I just found this like old 8-track machine that had a built-in drum machine. And somewhere I was just messing around with it, and I found this like 80s style, like 808 stuff, and
Hell yeah.
I was like, damn, this is awesome. Like, this is sick. And then a month later, I just started writing Bleached Waves, and every song just kind of like happened one after another. And I was working as a janitor. I remember I was working as a janitor at this university, and
I'm just gonna say real quick that that's a great job to do writing in.
Totally.
You know, like I wrote a lot of our music, our Hundy Thou verses, as a janitor at the hospital, and like
no way,
because you're alone. You have the beats on your
Exactly.
headphones, and you're just like in your own world. It's like sick, dude.
Dude, totally.
Shout out all
totally.
janitors, get creative.
I know. That's exactly it, man. That was exactly it. It gave me time to like, because when I was a janitor, it was based on, they worked the workload based on these older folks. So it was like, it took them 8 hours to finish the task. But for me, it took me like 3 hours. So I would just like use one of their computers and be like planning my tours and trying to send out my album to different record producers and labels. And then until I ran into my pal Riley Hill, who produced all my stuff, amazing producer, shout out to him. And I asked him, I was like, how do you get like signed? How do you find like management? He's like, dude, just look up people that you like admire or music that you sound similar to them, and look up who they work with. And so I found this band called Yamataka Sonic Titan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Montreal band moved to
Montreal,
Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were working with this guy Daryl Weeks, and I was like, shit, Daryl Weeks, and I clicked on him, and then I saw that he worked with like Deer Hunter and some of these other bands that I liked, and so I sent it to him that day, and then the next day I was just like mopping up some floors, and I got a little buzz on my phone being like, Daryl Weeks, and in the message he was just like, oh, hey Daniel, this is Daryl Weeks. I'm on song 3, and I gotta tell you, I love it, absolutely love it. Do you have time to talk? Like ASAP. And I was like, shit, I just dropped everying. I was like, if I get fired even just for like not finishing this job, like I don't care.
You're good.
Yeah. Fuck that.
So I called him, and immediately we just like bonded, and like he was just like, dude, your album could go far. He's like I work with Paper Bag Records. He's like, we could get you signed to them, no problem. He's like, but we could take it anywhere. And just the way that he was really excited about it, and just told me that he's like, I'll drop everything and I'll work with you, and we'll figure this out together. And from there, I was just like, dude, what do you think? And he was like, well, it'd be easier if we went to Paper Bag because I already know how it all works and we can get the money. And so I was like, let's do it. And then the next day I was at work, and then I got a message from the owner from Paper Bag, and he was like, hey, Daryl Weeks just messaged me, and I'm listening to the album, love it, we're super excited, we want to sign you. He's like, do you have time to talk like this afternoon? So then on my lunch break I called him, we talked, and and then we signed a deal right there. Then by the end of the day I had like 6 different people working within my team.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, but then so Daryl Weeks was like he was vouching for me, like he made everything so possible. And so then I had to get to work, and I had to finish my album and make it as best as I could. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, like maybe 3 months later, Daryl Weeks was at the Great Escape in Paris, I think it was, or Brighton, and he bumped his side. And while he was there, he kept complaining that his side was like really sore. And by the end of the festival, he ended up passing away from like internal bleeding.
Holy.
Oh. Yeah, and if you look up his name, Daryl Weeks, he was like a huge like publicist in Canada, and he worked with many artists all over the world. So it was like really hit the music scenes.
Yeah, that's harsh, man. I'm sorry for that. That sucks.
Yeah, and I never got to meet him in person either. He was just kind of like this internet dude who just like believed in me. And when he passed away, the label kind of was like, shit, we got to put all of our projects on hold. And in it, I ended up having to wait almost 2 years.
Wow, really?
It was tough. Yeah, like I finished Bleached Waves in like 2017. Damn. And by 2018, they told me, they're like, we have to pump the brakes because everything has to be put on hold. We have to find someone who can be our house publicist again, who can handle everything.
How does that feel? Having your album that, because there's a lot of energy put into something at the time, But then when you wait 2 years for it to actually see the light of day, are you excited? You know, or you're just like, oh, that thing, I forgot all about that. Or what is it like? You know,
it was tough. It was honestly the tough. It taught me a lot about the industry, and it taught me how to be patient even more, because I already put my life into something else from 2012 to 2017, and then to have to wait extra long, I was like losing my mind. But also I was like, okay, I'll continue being a janitor. I'll continue just saving my money and like working like as like, you know, just trying to like save my cash. And you know, there was ups and downs about it, but also I'm glad that it was put out when it was. But that wait was definitely took a long time, but it needed to happen because I didn't have any music videos or anything, and it gave me a chance to like to really hone in on the visual side of the project, because I was sonically I knew what I was doing, but visually I was like, well, yeah, actually I need time to like grow my hair out a little bit and like, you know, like figure out like what I'm gonna do, you know.
You make all your own videos, or?
Yeah, like I work with every producer or video director. It's like the last couple ones that I've done, I haven't been too much involved, but the ones that I originally put out like last year, the first like 4 of them, I work pretty close with the directors.
Nice. And are you getting excited again? Like, are you revisiting your tracks? Like, are you seeing things you didn't see beforehand? Like, because I know you, like, from an artist, you've experienced like a life and death cycle of these tracks. You worked on it for so long, you put your heart and soul in, and you're supposed to kind of almost give birth. And there's this shift where you're like, here's my product. And then you want people to ingest that, right? And you disseminate that through them. But when that's been in that kind of like, you know, arrested development stage where now people are hearing it and it's, you know, 2020, and then the CB, you know, exclaimed, the CBC is contacting you, you're on charts now. How does that feel? Like, are you seeing things? You're like, oh yeah, that track and this, and you know, like,
for sure. Like, cause like when you hear like just like a couple people say, the record label and the PR people being like, oh, this is really good. It's like, it's really dicey though, because it's still at that point just a gamble. You know, you don't know how the response is going to be to like the public. And so the 2 years waiting, I kept being like, this is shit. Like, it's not going to do that well. And I kept having my doubts about what I put onto the record.
That's just the life of an artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and everything I make is shit.
Exactly. And like, the vinyl had already been pressed. So like everything been in place. I couldn't change anything. And definitely had that like life and death cycle with it, where I was like up and down. And then, but then as soon as I put it out, like when I put out the first single, so then we linked up with a new PR agent called Tell All Your Friends from New York, and this Kip guy, he was like a godsend, and he pushed the album so hard that it got like the response that I was looking for. That's for sure. And
I felt like it was everywhere.
Yeah.
I felt like it just like all of a sudden was everywhere, and I was like, "Oh, good for Daniel."
Yeah, that's definitely how it felt, and it was worth the wait. That's for sure.
Man. It's some good shit.
In the early, like, I was just sorry to cut you up there, Mark, but like in the beginning, you said you didn't really want to be associated as like indigenous gaze, and now you jokingly refer to it as moccasin gaze. So has that changed, or do you still do you consider your music indigenous music, or is it just music?
Oh, I honestly call it like, so years ago when I put out those first like shoegaze records, I like on the tags it would just be like indigenous shoegaze music, and then it's just because Woven Records was like, oh, we should really touch on your indigenous side, and I was like, oh no, I don't really want to though, and then so all those years passed.
Why didn't you want to though? What was going on there? Like, why didn't you want to?
Oh man, I was like still super ashamed and like put down from like being in those like rural schools, man. Like you know, like thinking that I was like dirty and shit. Yeah. And
Canada's racist as hell though. We always we like to play it off like man, we're not. But then if you grow up in any small town, you see it like every day. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I grew up in Campbell River, like a tiny town on the island. I went to high school there, and you just see it every day. And then when you're like on social media, you see people being like, "Oh, America sucks because it's racist," but not here in Canada. You're like, "It's such do you live in Canada? It's racist as hell here."
Yeah, it's easy to like look at the fucking bigger dumpster fire beside you and be like, "Oh, that fire's out of control," but it's like, motherfucker, we got a little dumpster fire right here too. Like, just not, it's not that big, but it's still here. Like, our yard's not as big, but it's still a fucking dumpster fire. Like,
yeah. So I'm guessing,
exactly
I guess you felt that at the time you just wanted to kind of keep yourself separate or something.
Totally, because I just wanted the music to kind of like speak for itself. I didn't want to be like, oh, people would be like, oh, it's pretty good for like a little res boy or something like that, you know,
right? Like diminish the work almost, just
exactly.
Yeah,
and like that's such. I mean, like that must be such a hard thing because Canada, we're very good at cherry picking our settler colonial kind of identity. Do you know what I mean? Like we're very good at being like, oh, we need some natives here, you know, to show that we're so fucking vast and multicultural.
Any Canada Day.
Like
they start.
But you still want Indigenous artists to, you know, like you want them to thrive and survive and
totally.
and spread it. And like, you know, there's so many artists that are Indigenous in Canada that are like that are crushing it. And it's like, if anything, you want that kind of
Naughty Nose Reds kids. Shout out.
Naughty Nose Reds kids, fucking A Tribe Called Red, like the fucking
totally
OGs, like.
Yeah,
you want those guys to like, you want them to make money. You want, like, you know, you want Canadian labels to and Canadian news outlets and media outlets to actually and fund, you know, get funding, get fucking exposure, get radio play, get all that shit. Like, why not, right? Like, you just don't like that. I think it's always going to exist, like the kind of like almost like imposed, like I don't know, I guess the word, like, but like I don't want to say infantilized, but like almost like there's, because that you can never escape that, I guess, because of the settler colonial mindset, where it's like there's always going to be like a top down white person kind of being like, oh yes, like we get to pick and choose, and you know, we want the good side of Indigenous people,
exactly,
and we want it to be like a, you know, we cherry pick, but like
totally.
but make your money, you know, like fuck, like it's such a it's a double-edged sword, but I mean that's also life, like as long as
I noticed in 2015 too, like when I was deciding if I should put out a record or not, I just remember noticing a huge shift in, like, you know, the whole decolonization thing. And I just saw like I saw an opportunity to kind of like take advantage of whatever movement was happening and just kind of like use it as a way for me to, you know, like put my music out and at least be heard. And so 2015 happened. And then 2017 rolled around, and I started noticing other bands like Nihayawak and Whoopso, and just like other kind of rock and roller, you know, alternative dudes putting out records. And I was like, okay, yeah, now is the time for me to actually to show my indigeneity. And at that point, I had been learning from the Seven Grandfather teachings, and I was like really begin like a lot more spiritual and within myself, and yeah. So it was just like I think it was just like it was a perfect timing where like I was talking to the label, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to cover. I want to talk about like the Seven Grandfathers teachings, like Zoon means courage, and it's connected with like the bear spirit, like Makwa, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. But I honestly wasn't even saying moccasin gaze at all. But I was on tour one time, and I was in Calgary, and one of the radio guys was like, "Oh, hey, you're doing like moccasin gaze," and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I don't know. I've been doing this for like since like 2007. You know, like I've been doing it for a while, but I kind of stepped away, and now I'm back in it. And so that was like the first time that I heard like moccasin gaze.
And it was a white guy saying it.
Huh?
Was it a white guy saying it?
No, it was a native guy.
Oh, okay. I was gonna be like, that'd be messed up. The white radio jock is like, you know, moccasin gaze.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like dead eyeing him, like, what did you just say?
And yeah, so then I kind of just like started just using it too, but somewhere along the line, someone who thought they invented like moccasin gaze kind of got upset or something, and I had to like pull out all my records and be like, dude, like my records like outdate all your shit. Like,
yeah, weird.
I've been like kind of.
Do you feel accepted in the shoegaze community? Like, is there a shoegaze community? You talk about these like kind of like soft indie white boys, which I think is a very apt description of that kind of like that post, that, you know, that smaller indie post punk kind of vibe. Like totally. how do you move in those circles?
Well, I just kind of operate on my own, and people usually just like message me, you know, like
nice.
people reach out to me and be like, "Oh, dude, your record sounds like some OG shit, and it doesn't sound like all these kind of like other kind of like weird sounding shoegaze records that like." I take like a more of like a experimental approach, just like My Bloody Valentine. Like there's not really, it doesn't sound like a band when you listen to them. It sounds like a songwriter doing just experimental music, at least for me.
It's like
and
walls of
when
sound.
I listen to them, and that's just how I approach it. Where like some of these shoegaze bands, they operate as a band where they all take turns like writing their parts or whatever, and they all have the same influences, like slow dive or something, and so it comes out just like that. Where me, I'm like really influenced by like, you know, the hip hop community.
Yeah,
I'm influenced by like early Beck, like Mellow Gold, where it's
fuck
like
yeah,
early,
dude, fuck yeah, Beck is underrated.
and Brian Wilson, like I love Brian Wilson because he was just like a genius with melodies and stuff. So like my combination of music all comes into whatever this shoegaze record is, and people can just, I think they just, if they can't really identify it, they subconsciously can tell that there's just something else going on.
Yeah, it's very visceral. It's like all your tracks are very visceral and like
intense.
Yeah,
I would
like,
say intense. Yeah,
I pictured, you know, like I pictured so many different kind of like atmospheres of where like it could be like, you know, you took mushrooms and then you're staring out at a beach, you know, you're walking home, you're 18, you just broke up with your girlfriend or your partner, right? Or, you know, I mean, I could picture some of those tracks were like, you know, straight up like skate video or snowboard video, you know what I mean? Like it's very powerful. It's not noodly, you know, because like my exposure to shoegaze, being in small, you know, going to shows and going to like, you know, punk shows or all this or that, it always seemed like it was very hollow. Do you know what I mean? Like there's, you always get that wall of guitar. There's always that wall of guitar. But like I was like, what is, you know, like nothing kind of, there was no visceral there's no emotion or like visceral, like I'm not getting grabbed. Like my body doesn't want to move. You know, nobody's moving. Or nobody, you know, maybe people are just in their own brain cell, right? Like who knows? But like it was like soft kind of suburban kids. I'm like, man, these guys haven't been through shit. They're not trying to, you know what I mean? Like, and like that's the thing. Like I think it speaks to your experience, and I think a lot of artists where there's a lot of talents in Canada come from small towns or like you know, shitty situations where they're like, we got to get out. Like we're hungry, man. Like we're in Prince Rupert, and we'll drive fucking 15 hours to Vancouver to play a fucking basement show because we want, like we are hungry. We need this, you know?
Exactly.
And you see a lot of artists, and you know, whether you're in Vancouver or you're Toronto or Montreal, is like those guys aren't from those places. They're from fucking a tiny ass town. Pick your province, and
that's
then
Canada style.
They're just coming in with all that just like catharsis of just like, this is my fucking story. Like
exactly, you know? Exactly, and that's like the vibe I'm going for, you know, like trying to get in touch with that kind of feel, and it seems like that's what everyone says about it, and that's the energy that I put in, because you know there was a lot of heartache that happened in those years, you know, leading up to it. You know, I dedicate the album to my dad who passed away, and my best friend Barrett, you know, and you know, it's sad, like both of them never got a chance to listen to it, and I finally just got paid now, and I could have used that money like 2 years ago to be with my dad, and so I'm like really in a conflicted space with Bleached Waves and the release of the album and stuff, but I am also just like grateful that I was able to put you know, all that emotion into it, and for people to be responsive of it.
Did you? This is a Mark question, but did you, when you're writing the record and you're performing it, do you ever like think about who's going to be listening to it or what environment it's going to be in, or that's not even a concern to you? You're just doing it for yourself.
When I was making Bleached Waves, I envisioned just like, you know, putting this record together and having just like a few of my friends kind of listen to it, and that kind of be it. But now I'm working on my second record. And I have like fucking 5 albums, you know. But I decided
you got to drop mixtapes, man. I'm trying to get rock musicians to drop mixtapes. You know, like mixtape. You got to. Rock's dying. Rock is dying because it's not keeping up with rap. You know,
it's true.
It's dead. And we're gonna ask this because like you know, I think that your Bleached Wave is almost an outlier for shoegaze, because of its realness and its, you know, its relatability, even just like on an emotional level for people. And when you were talking about the other guys, and they have like their genre, the person they want to sound like. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're a shoegaze band, we must sound like this. We're not actually like taking a risk.
Yeah.
And Chris and I always talk about this, and we believe it, and we're always talking shit, but like, rock's fucking dead. Do you think rock's dead? It's fucking dead, bro.
Because it's not doing that. Because it's not doing that. It's just, it's like all people who look up to a certain like era, like maybe they're into Velvet Underground, and then they just make their album like the Velvet Underground, like nothing original or nothing new to it. They're just like, let's copy that and make our own crappy version of it.
The indie guys are like Velvet Underground, Television. There's the punk guys who are like, well, we're gonna just do oi music, or we're just gonna do ska music, or we're just gonna do even like the grindcore guys and all this shit. They're like, they want to sound like some sort of grindcore band from 1994. Like you'll hear, like I'll see it, people be like, oh, look into Jam, want to sound like 90s,
it's
NFT,
worship.
and
you're
worship. Like, fucking
your music,
bro, evolve. Like, this is crazy. Imagine being a rapper and you're like, man, I really want to sound like Digital Underground and like Big Daddy Kane's first album. That's what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? It's just like, what? That shit was that was 30 years ago. Like,
totally.
It hasn't changed. Like, there's like, it's no longer an expression of like the youth who are like, oh, this is what we're using. It's like that's gone into everything else, right? Or mainly hip hop and electronic music, like beats. Kids are producing and kids are doing other shit. And yeah, I don't know.
Would you drop mixtapes? Because I feel like mixtapes is a good place to be. Like, you say you have 5 albums worth.
Yeah.
Now, when you do your actual follow up, you want to put a lot of work into that and make it as best as you possibly can. But maybe those other things fall on the wayside. Drop that as a mixtape. Just drop that as a mixtape, and that could be your prep to the follow up.
Dude, that's totally what I'm doing. That's totally what I'm like. I was on it. It's funny that you're talking about it, because my next approach is gonna be like, kind of like how the hip hop community, like, I think this is maybe accurate, but they release like singles, like standalone singles.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm gonna be doing in the next like little while. Like I just started doing like just remixes for artists, and people are coming to me.
I saw that new one. Yeah, I saw that new one on Spotify. And with streaming platforms, that's the way to do it. The modern way is to just drop singles and you have to feed the content machine. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are just hungry and they want to keep you in their consciousness. You know what I mean?
That was before the 70s, right? The 70s, did not to be like a history nerd, but like, radio stations and record companies basically created the giant albums to push, right? Like rock albums. But before that, it was singles, man. Everybody, little records, 7 inches. Everybody was, and I think we're kind of going back to that, I would say.
Totally.
Where it's like you got an R&B single, you got some sort of psychedelic rock single, like, like what a country song, like you got all these things, and like you don't have to make the album,
Yeah, that's good. That's cool to hear. Yeah, and then that could give you your time to work on your actual record and put the effort in.
Yeah, it's true, and these the albums that I put out are very short too. Like Bleach Waves is 28 minutes long.
Perfect.
Yeah,
like just like very very short. Where a lot of people put out hours worth of music, and I just think that's so dangerous. And just like I know like big artists like put out albums because they put a lot of songs in there because they don't know which ones are going to be hits.
Yeah,
and I understand that idea, but like for me, I just I just don't do that.
I think 10 songs, 45-minute max is like a good range for like a full length, But even rap albums, like Young Thug will drop a mixtape that's 27 songs, and I'm like, I'm only listening to the first 5. Like I'm not going to go that deep on you, man.
Yeah, that's so yeah, that's my next approach. I'm putting out short records, and I'm just gonna stick to it because I don't have the attention span to like listen to full records unless there's an artist that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Where I want to listen to how they structure songs and shit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, that's for me. I just want to keep it nice and short these days.
Nice. Brevity's the thing, man. Brevity is the thing.
And I learned how much money you can make off radio. So like me, whenever I do a remix, like I split it 50-50 royalties with the artist, and then plus anything after that, whatever happens to the song, I still get like 50% of whatever they make for for forever or whatever.
Yeah.
But because like all the money right now is like in Sirius and satellite radio. It's insane. It's insane.
Interesting.
Speak on that. What's the deal with that? Like
So like how it works is that everything in the industry is pretty regulated, And just like say if I, because I say when I went on to CBC, I did this thing called intro with them, and for them to get the licensing deal for my music, it cost them like $300 or $350 per song or something like that for the live performance, and then plus on top of that like $500 just to like have it on played on their station. And that's the same way that it works with radio. A satellite radio is regulated by the government. So anytime they play something, they need to show proof that they paid for licensing for the song. So every time, so for whatever reason, satellite radio, they worked out a deal where they pay a certain amount of an artist fee for every time they play your song. And it adds up real quick. Where say if like my local radio station here in Toronto, for like the college station, they just stream the song. They don't pay anything at all. And so they just like they basically get a copy of the WAV file, and then they just play it at their station. They don't have to report to any like union boards or anything like that. Where satellite radio, everything is like it's like pretty corporate.
Yeah.
And so anytime anything gets played, there has to be some kind of transaction happening. And I didn't understand that until I got into working with record labels and understanding SOCAN and how all these things are actually trying to work with you.
Right.
And some artists don't understand that, and they have like pools of money just like collecting in these royalty companies. And I just found out recently that you could make a living off of it. Is it in the DIY? So you're kind of part of a label and stuff, and I'm assuming they handle most of that business. As a DIY artist, do you think you could do the same thing plugging into radio like that, or do you have to go through a label basically? Totally. No, and this is what I love about getting into the industry, is that I'm the type of artist who I want to see like a lot of people like succeed. So a lot of stuff that I've been learning, I just tell my friends who are like trying to do it on their own, and I'm like, dude, like you gotta like, if you got like a mixtape or an album or singles and videos, you gotta like you kind of have to like, when you're ready to put it out, you have to contact music PR companies, like not necessarily PR companies, but this like specific radio company called Planetary Group, and they're based out of California, and you pay like $1,000 to $2,000, and they'll push your music to everything, and if they like the record, they'll work so hard, and you don't need a label to do that. You just need some cash, and you could get a factor grant for $2,000, spend $1,000 on your music, budget, and then another $1,000 on a little bit of a press release and get some reviews. And honestly, it's that easy. But it really comes down to if the music really connects to these radio station people, because they're all different people, right? Like some chum is like work. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to really determine how it's going to play out, but if your music's decent, it's opened my eyes out that you don't need a label anymore. I needed a label at first because I was a janitor working endlessly, and I needed money up front to like put music to print my album and like all these other little things to pay musicians who were working with me. And that was it. But once you get past that, so I would recommend, if you're an artist, sign a 1 album deal based in your country. Don't sign a worldwide deal, and don't go anything over 2 albums. And
solid.
You can do it by yourself. You can honestly do it by yourself.
Yeah,
it's
the internet set that up.
It
set it up. Exactly. It has all the tools available. Like, so
exactly.
All you need is that first initial bump to get recognition, like name recognition, and then once you have your small audience, then you could just rock it yourself.
Exactly. And I'm starting to see like all the musicians around me who have kind of gone through what I've gone through, starting up their own labels and doing their own thing. Like I have my own publishing company for my own music because I'm a self-published artist, and now anytime my music gets played, I get 100% of my royalties for it.
Dude, nice.
Yeah.
You did it.
That's that's a fucking dream right there.
But it's stuff that I never would have thought about before.
Well,
but
that's why doing it is useful, because you get inside the label and the business music industry structure, and then you start learning as much as you can, and then you take that knowledge and go off and do your own thing, like you just
exactly.
did. Yeah.
And if you work with And if you work with management and PR people, and if you have to make sure that you're in every email thread, and you try to build your own relationships aside with your, you try to build relationships with these people, because your manager will try to like not let you, he'll try separate you because then you won't need him.
Yes.
But the idea is that you, like, I have a whole memo page with all emails written down with people who I've done business with, and you just keep in contact with those people. I mean, like, you don't have to keep in contact with them, but just keep their email down, so that if your manager ever walks out, or if you want to just get out of a contract, you have like all those contacts, because that's why you hire management people, because they have the contacts.
They have
exactly.
And that footwork is like, people don't realize that, like, there's like, you're an artist and you're making art, but like there's that, if you want it, you got to put the footwork in. Like, nobody talks about like having memos, having email chains, remembering email chains.
The business side is a necessary evil, and it can fully exploit you, or it could help you, or somewhere in the middle. But like, it is a necessary evil in that industry, unfortunately.
It's true, because you want to like be self-sustainable, and for me, I didn't go to university or anything. All I have is my art. So like, for me to like make sure that I'm like in control of a lot of things is like really like my top priority. And I knew that walking into it, but I was pretty naive, and I signed like like a 3-album deal and a worldwide when I shouldn't have done that. And but now my music's like in Target in like Tokyo or something. So
I would look at the positive of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I think like talk forever, I guess, but I almost feel like we could wrap it up maybe.
Yeah, let's do that.
Just 'cause it's been like almost 50 minutes, but
oh shit, okay,
time flies.
Saying we can go forever, man. This could be a 3-hour podcast. We're going Joe Rogan on you motherfuckers.
Our idol. This is why we got into podcasting.
This is how we model our whole shit up. But we're starting a new segment here where we end the show with what you been into. So whatever you've been into. What have you been into?
Oh man, going on dates.
Hey, yeah. In the pandemic, is that working?
Well, just with my this person that I just met, and that's kind of like getting me back into things, because for like 2 years I haven't really been like doing all that much and just like really focusing on music. But now I'm kind of stepping aside and like embracing like the human side of like living, the human experience of like bonding with someone. And,
very nice.
And that's what I've been into, man. That's like, I think that
right, treasure that. That's a good feeling. For real though.
It's a great feeling, man.
Like finding connection with another human you don't get that very often.
It's scary, man. Sometimes it's scary, that's for sure. But musically, I mentioned earlier how I've been getting back into just re-listening to like just like Tupac, really. And the track that I was just listening to today was one that I brought up earlier, like Dear Mama.
Nice.
Classic. So good.
And my other favorite like is Life Goes On.
Yeah.
It's like, that song is like so sad, but it's like it's the best.
Yeah, man.
And that's what I'm into right now, today at least.
Nice. Mark, what are you into? What you been into?
Oh shit, I've been into cooking Balkan food.
Hell yeah.
Like from scratch. Balkan food, like the former Yugoslavia. My partner, she's half Serbian, half Croatian, and I went to Serbia, and it's fucking wild. Like,
wow,
I can't recommend it enough. Go to Eastern Europe. Go to Go to places where there's like bullet holes in buildings, and like every fucking car garage is like a hookah lounge, and it's like you're guaranteed to have a fucking sick ass time. No, I've been making shit like so all my time off I've been making food from there, just because like it's just kind of like a hyper focus I have of where I fell in love with it, and I'm like, I'm gonna try to recreate it. Thank God there's lots of people from Croatia and Serbia and Bulgaria and stuff in Vancouver, so there's like butcher shops and grocery stores where you can go get the products and stuff.
Nice.
That's nice.
I've also been watching the Defiant Ones on Netflix, which is about Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, and that is, I cannot recommend it enough, man. Like the story of Jimmy, talking about music producers and people who were like have a vision and work with artists. Like, I mean, I didn't realize how much, like, I wouldn't call him like a kingmaker, but like he was a guy with like who did like everybody from fucking Bruce Springsteen to Patti Smith to Tom Petty
Wow.
to Tupac. He's a guy who was like, he was the guy who believed in death row. Like sonically, he heard Dr. Dre and he's like, this guy's a savant. And he saw what Tupac and Dr. Dre and Suge Knight and those guys were doing and was like, this is the stuff. This is the music of the 90s. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
this is what I'm gonna like. People have to sign.
And he made
like,
it that. Yeah.
Nobody wanted to sign those guys, right? People are like, these guys are terrifying. Why would we do this?
Oh,
No,
shit.
everybody was terrified after NWA, and then he was the guy to really be like, nope, I'm back in this project. And it's not about him, right? He was the like you. I mean, obviously, it was a bias. It's going to make him look really good as a person, but I mean, like there's that continuing trend in the documentary where he just sits with the artist. He's like, and he just maximizes helping the artist. You know what I mean? It's not about him. It's about like,
Nice.
yeah, the Defiant Ones.
The Defiant Ones. I'm gonna check it out
Defiant
right
Ones,
after
yeah.
we're done this.
Go on a date, yo, Netflix and chill. The Defiant Ones.
Oh shit! Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Chris.
Oh.
Chris, what are you into, bro?
Yo, I've been into this podcast called What Happened Was. It's hosted by a rapper, Open Mike Eagle, and he
cool.
basically interviews one artist about their whole career. So the first season was with Prince Paul, and I watched that or listened to it, and I thought it was awesome. He talked about Gravediggers and all the De La albums. It was super interesting.
Cool.
And now the next season is about LP, who's like one of my favorite rappers, hugest inspiration for me, I think, in rap. He's in Run the Jewels, and it's
Cool.
like I'm 3 episodes deep on that. It's really good.
Hell yeah.
What else? I've been watching a lot of anime, like 80s, 90s anime.
Oh, me too. I got Funimation.
Yo, yeah.
Oh, is that a streaming service?
Yeah.
Yo, YouTube has got so many because I think the rights for these things have like expired or something. So like, there's a million full-length ones on there, dude. I'll send you some. But yeah, and yeah. What else? That's pretty much it. Watching
anime
Community.
is one of those things where it's like there's such a people are like, oh, anime, because there's people who are like really into anime, but like most millennials, like we watch that shit. Like you grew up watching that. Like
It's a spectrum
anime,
too, man. Like sometimes you
awesome.
see the cutesy high school ones and you think that's what it all is, but it's like there's gruesome ass ones. There's sci-fi.
There's beautiful.
Yeah,
some of the most beautiful film, man. Like
Berserk.
Yeah. Shout out to Berserk.
Yeah.
Mark's a fan.
dude.
I've never seen it, but I got to check it out.
Big fan. And they got that crazy, like the 90s one has that like really cool, almost like Japanese pop punk intro. Like it's very
I
like,
love it. It's sick.
so
It's like,
good.
yeah, it's funny, man. Like the girl that I'm seeing right now, she showed me it, and like in the beginning, I was like, "Damn, this song's fire, man." What the
Yeah.
Remix.
fuck? Yeah.
And also anime intros are a work of themselves, man. Like
Dude, they're
it's
so
all-
high energy sometimes.
like
It's like
5 minutes long.
You're like worn out by the time the shit starts.
Straight up. You're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the show called Attack on Titan.
Yo, I was
Yes.
obsessed. That's a cliffhanger show, dude. Like
I haven't watched the last season yet, but I binge watched all of it, and then I just had enough. But I want to go back and finish it off. But the music in it is sick too, like from the first season.
yeah.
The guys who did that also did a really cool one I got into called the Vinland Saga. Like and it's all about Vikings, and like Vinland is like what the Vikings called like Newfoundland, I think, when like they went there for a second. But it's fascinating, and it's all about the cultural like and philosophical idea about violence, and like because basically one is it's like this brutal Viking dude who gets captured becomes a slave, escapes, becomes like a brutal fucking Viking, and then rejects that and is like trying to exist in like this violent world in a non-violence way.
Wow.
And it's just like, and Vinland is both a physical place, but also in the anime manga, it's like it's almost like the idea of like reaching a perfect world of like not having to live in brutality, and like is that even
Wow.
achievable? Yeah, it's like it got like really
Yeah.
deep, and it's
Yeah.
violent as fuck too, and it's cool. Like it's
Covers all bases. Yeah.
covers all bases.
That's dope, man. That's dope. Yeah, send me some links to some anime when you get a chance to the YouTube stuff, so I don't have to keep paying for Funimation.
Yeah. Is it a good deal? What's the deal with that? It's like
Oh,
$10
fuck,
or
man.
something.
I think it's like $8 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got
It's not bad.
Crunchyroll. It's like that too. It's like
There.
$6.99.
Yeah, I got YouTube. It's free, baby.
It's free, baby.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording. But
All right.
nice talking to you, Zoon, aka
Zoon.
Daniel
Of course,
Monkman.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
check it shit's on Spotify. You're on
All
Apple.
streaming
You're on all that
platforms.
stuff. All streaming
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah.
Also,
Apple Music the most though.
Yes.
Go to Apple Music because that's where I get all my plays. Like Spotify has done nothing for me.
Okay.
Sure.
And they
Apple
give you
Music
like
gives me all the love.
it gives you like
Apple
100th
Music.
of a cent too. So
Yeah.
screw Spotify.
And is there a place people can purchase your stuff?
Yeah, just on my
physical?
Bandcamp on zoongadoinmusic.com.
And do it on Bandcamp Fridays or whatever it is, where you get 100% proceeds go to him.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
It's been fun, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us.
This has been great.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peace.